It's a confession, and this from Selena. By the way, Brother Mike, you're very welcome back into your robes. I can't remember whether you're an easy pushover on the confessions or not.
I can't remember.
I think you are.
No, I thought it was quite tough, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's
leather trousers.
Let's find out.
Yeah, makes it very tough.
It's their professional leather trousers. So here we go. Dear Father Mayo, says Selena, and assorted members of the confessional posse. I would like to confess to an episode that happened whilst I was living in halls of residence at a northern university, and which at the time my friends and I found extremely hilarious. But with the passing of time, I feel penance must be sought for the distress I caused to one of my fellow students. I'll call her Lynn, who was in the room next to mine. At first, she seemed really pleasant. We got on famously, studying and partaking of the many and varied social opportunities available to us together. The problem started when at the start of our second year, we decided to rent a house with some other students. What a hoot we thought it would be. I realized my mistake almost immediately. She was a clean freak, tidying up, cleaning up, and worst of all, hoovering, well, actually it says hovering, but I think you probably mean hoovering, very early, like 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday and or Sunday. Imagine that, being up at that time. Mind you, if she was hovering, this would be a completely different story altogether.
It was not very noisy, is it, hovering? So it wouldn't disturb her.
So let's assume that she's tidying, cleaning and hoovering at 11 o'clock Saturday, Sunday morning. It drove me mad, Simon. I moaned and complained about this unacceptable situation to anyone who would listen, but they just laughed. Even my parents were quite unsympathetic, and my resentment of this girl grew unbounded. Now, Lynn had 2 lovebirds in a fancy cage that she kept in the dining room. They were her pride and joy, and she would spend hours cleaning them out, of course, and cooing over them. I have a phobia of birds. You can see this relationship is problematic. And she would let them out to fly around each night, and I would glare at them and her in silence. One night, after a trip to my local hostelry, we stopped off at the garage to stock up on essentials, crisps and chocolate, and I bought a packet of mini chocolate eggs. You know, with the shell with a sort of sugar coating, which looked quite realistic. As I was eating them, a devious thought entered my mind, and I gently opened the lovebird's cage door and put 2 of these little chocolate eggs in the nest part.
No.
When Lynn looked next morning, she was beside herself with joy and happiness. All she went on about for the next several days was the fact that her birds had laid eggs. Yes, for real. And how exciting it would be to bring new life into the world once the chicks were hatched. Now, with hindsight, it was at that point that I should have come clean and told her the truth. But no, I had to carry on the joke for way, way too long. The next weekend, again returning from the pub, which you'll notice crops up at regular intervals, I discovered that while I was out, Lynn's birds had left droppings all over my coursework that I had left lying around. In the ensuing argument, I opened the cage door and popped the chocolate eggs into my mouth, saying, "Ha ha, what do you think of that then?" And then crunched.
Excellent.
Oh my goodness, Simon, she went ballistic. Realizing that maybe I'd overstepped the mark, I quickly tried to explain that the eggs were only a joke, but as you can imagine, nothing I could say or do would calm her down. I was a chick killer. No amount of grovelling apology from me could make her forgive, and I felt dreadful. Needless to say, Lynn found alternative accommodation after that, and I felt extreme remorse ever since. Please forgive my foolish student joke. You can imagine the shock and horror that because she just thought they were perfectly decent eggs, but no, they were those mini eggs, which are of the devil anyway. So we have Selena asking for forgiveness. What do you think, Sister Rebecca?
I'm torn again because this was very, very funny, and it was hilarious that she ate the eggs. Do you think?
Unless you thought they were the real thing.
I know. I think her motivation was a bit suspect because she was annoyed with her friend Lynn for hoovering at 11 o'clock. I mean, I had a friend who used to scream at me for waking her up at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, with her eye mask on.
How terrible.
And I just thought that was a bit unreasonable. So I think her motivation, 11 o'clock is reasonable to be hoovering. So I think that she shouldn't have tried to pay her back by eating her eggs. What am I trying to say?
That's just what I was going to ask you. Forgiven or not?
Get on with it. Forgiven.
Okay, there you go. Could have gone either way. Mother superior.
Yeah, I do have some sympathy because it is difficult, but it is very funny. By the way, I had a pair of cooing doves in my garden at the weekend, and they were actually kissing each other with
Were
their
they really?
beaks.
And have they produced eggs yet?
Probably. I didn't see that bit, but I saw them, doing things with their mouths to each other, which was very sweet. Anyway, back to Selena and Lynn. I think it's so funny that I'm going to have to forgive, I think, Lynn, or was it Selena?
Selena.
I'm going to have to forgive Selena because I think that was a really funny thing to do. So you're forgiven.
All right. Okay. Brother Mike.
Well, as Rebecca said, it's a bit harsh, isn't it, for someone to find a student you share a house with who cleans. That's a godsend for a start.
She should be treasured and loved.
But forgiven because it's hilarious.